What Halloween costume was so cruel it made a teacher quit forever? My junior year, we had this English teacher, Mrs. Davidson, who was going through a really messy divorce while 7 months pregnant. She was trying to keep it together, but you could tell she was struggling. She'd sometimes tear up during lessons or have to step out to take lawyer calls. Most of us felt bad for her, but there was this group of popular kids led by this girl, Madison, who thought Mrs. Davidson's situation was hilarious. "She's so pathetic," Madison would whisper during class. "Imagine being pregnant and getting dumped. What a loser." Mrs. Davidson tried to ignore the snickering, but you could see it was getting to her. Halloween was on a Friday that year, and our school allowed costumes as long as they were appropriate. Madison and her crew had been planning something for weeks, whispering and giggling whenever Mrs. Davidson walked by. That morning, I walked into first period English to find Madison and 5 of her friends sitting in the front row wearing the most cruel costumes I'd ever seen. They were all dressed as pregnant women with fake baby bumps, maternity clothes, and wedding dresses that were ripped and torn. They had signs around their necks that said things like abandoned, single mom, and daddy issues. But Madison's costume was the worst. She had a fake baby bump, a torn wedding dress, and was carrying a briefcase labeled divorce papers. Around her neck was a sign that said knocked up and kicked out. When Mrs. Davidson walked in and saw them, she stopped dead in her tracks. Her face went completely white. What is this?" she asked quietly. Madison stood up and did a little curtsy. "We're celebrating Halloween. Don't we look great?" The other girls started giggling and posing, rubbing their fake baby bumps and pretending to cry about their missing husbands. Mrs. Davidson just stood there, clearly trying not to break down in front of the whole class. This is about me, isn't it?" "Oh no, Mrs. Davidson," Madison said with fake innocence. "We're just dressed as generic pregnant divorcees. If you see yourself in our costumes, that's not our fault." The rest of the class was sitting in stunned silence. Even the kids who usually laughed at everything looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Davidson tried to start the lesson, but Madison and her friends kept making comments. "Ugh, my back hurts so much from carrying this baby," one girl said loudly. "At least you're not dealing with divorce lawyers," another added. "I wonder if anyone will ever love us again," Madison said, looking directly at Mrs. Davidson. That's when Mrs. Davidson finally broke. She started crying right there in front of everyone. "Please stop," she whispered. "Please just stop." But Madison wasn't done. "Oh, are we making you emotional? Sorry, we know pregnant women are really sensitive." Mrs. Davidson ran out of the classroom sobbing. The room was dead silent for about 10 seconds. Then this kid, Jake, who never spoke up about anything, stood up and said, "What the hell is wrong with you people?" "It's just a joke," Madison said, but she looked less confident now. "A joke? You just made a pregnant woman cry on purpose. That's not a joke. That's bullying." More students started speaking up. "That was really messed up, Madison. She's going through a divorce and you're making fun of her? You guys are horrible." Madison and her friends tried to defend themselves, but the whole class had turned against them. 20 minutes later, the principal walked in with Mrs. Davidson, who had clearly been crying. Behind them was the school counselor and the vice principal. "I understand there was an incident involving inappropriate costumes," the principal said, looking directly at Madison's group. "We didn't do anything wrong," Madison protested. "It's Halloween. We're allowed to wear costumes. Costumes that deliberately mock and humiliate a staff member? That's harassment." The principal made Madison and her friends stand up in front of the class. "Explain to me how these costumes aren't specifically designed to target Mrs. Davidson." Madison tried to claim it was just a coincidence, but it was obvious to everyone what they'd done. "All 6 of you, principal's office, now." Madison and her friends were suspended for a week for harassment and bullying, but the damage was done. Mrs. Davidson took early maternity leave 2 weeks later and never came back to our school. She was actually a really good teacher who genuinely cared about her students.